It can be extremely difficult to get enough protein on a small budget, especially when you have to avoid all dairy products. So today I'm heading to the store. I'm gonna pick up about $25 in groceries, and I'm making several recipes that are higher in protein. They're dairy-free, naturally gluten-free, and most of them are lower in sugar too. So let's head to the store and get started. Here is the list. I am gonna be using some things from my pantry, including some seasonings, vanilla, honey, vinegar, soy sauce, baking soda, and maybe some oil, and possibly some chocolate chips. Okay, 1 dozen eggs for $3.42. So pricey. $3.42 for that. Next, I want some almond milk. Oh, $2.29. That's not bad. Next is peanuts. $2.19. Let's get the unsalted. Next is celery. $2.17. Go. Let's see if they have individual onions. There we go, 59 cents a pound. Okay, let's get a couple of these ones then. Perfect. All right, carrots are next, $1.95 for 2 pounds. Good. Okay, hopefully they have the chickpea spaghetti still, because that's what I want. Do they have the chickpea spaghetti? I only see the chickpea penne or chickpea rotini. So maybe they don't have the chickpea spaghetti right now, which is okay because I do have some at home. We'll just allot $2.69 though for that instead. But the chickpea spaghetti was $1.79. Okay, next are northern beans. Here we go. Great northern beans. And these are 87 cents. Just 1 can. Oh, next I need split peas. $1.39. These ones have 8 grams of protein for a 1/4 cup. I'm gonna make something really tasty with that. But I do need chickpeas. We'll just get 1 can. It was on the top of the list, so I missed it. Next is tofu, $1.59. And this is 9 grams of protein in about 3 ounces. There's 4.5 servings in this. That's great. Okay, next is salmon, $5.49 a pound. Salmon. Somebody was going to freeze their own broccoli. All right, broccoli for $1.19 or $1.15. Okay, this is it. $2.49. That's the one I want. Yay! And this one actually has 2 grams of protein in it too per serving. And there's 4 servings in this. Let's see about broccoli. Broccoli has 2 grams of protein too. Protein and veggies. I love it. Okay, so that should be everything for this one except for the chickpea spaghetti. Oh my gosh. And the total for everything today was $26.51, but that doesn't include the chickpea spaghetti I'm going to be using for this. I have about 4 of these in the pantry. I got them on sale for 99 cents, but they were $1.79 when I picked them up. And this has 12 grams of protein per serving, and a serving is about 1/4 of the package, it says. There's also 8 grams of fiber as well, and 3 grams fat, and 180 calories per serving. So this should be really great. I'm super excited. Also, after making the recipes, I realized a lemon would have been better than the second onion. This is a lemon from my lemon tree, so I didn't actually have to purchase it. But if you are making these recipes, I do recommend a lemon to be added because you're going to be needing it for some of the recipes I have. And I do want to mention, although I have chosen some ingredients that are naturally dairy-free and gluten-free, it's always super important to check the labels if you have an allergy or if you just want to be sure that it doesn't have something in it. So as you can see, a can of beans doesn't just have beans. It also has water, salt, calcium chloride, which is a firming agent. So definitely just double check the labels to make sure that they are okay for you to have. I'm just choosing things that I will eat. I do not have a sensitivity to dairy or to gluten, so I'm not positive about the specific brands, but you can see like the chickpea spaghetti says gluten-free here, although it doesn't say non-dairy or dairy-free. So I don't see any of that in the ingredients, though. Ingredients are just 100% chickpea flour. But again, if you are in doubt, maybe send an email over to the company and just verify, so that way you know you're getting exactly what you think you're getting. You see on the almond milk here, it says dairy-free, soy-free, and gluten-free. So usually it'll say on the packaging if it's free of certain allergens. The first thing that I like to do when I get home from the store is meal prep all of my breakfasts. So I'm going to go ahead and hard boil some eggs on the stove for about 8 minutes at a boil. And in the meantime, I'm going to start making my homemade peanut butter. Peanut butter is super easy to make. I'm just going to pour my peanuts here. They're unsalted, but you can choose salted if you like. Just going to pour them straight into a food processor. This is a 3.5 cup food processor, but you can use a blender or whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend those for about 8 to 10 minutes. You'll see after 5 minutes, it comes together really nicely. It's a little crunchy still. So if you want it smoother, just continue to blend until it's the smoothness that you like. And what's great about making your own peanut butter is you can add chia seeds or some cashews, almonds, or any nuts or seeds that you love and really make this your own, maybe even some milled flax or something to add more protein. And then it's done. Super easy. And I'm going to save 1/2 cup of this peanut butter for my breakfast I'm about to make. And then I'll store the rest of that in a mason jar and cover it and put it in the refrigerator. It lasts quite a while in there, but of course we're going to be using it all week long, so it'll be gone by the end of the week. I like to store my peanut butter in the refrigerator because it avoids the separation and it's really still nice and creamy when I need to use it too. So it's great in the refrigerator. Now, after those eggs are done cooking, I'm going to put those in an ice bath for about 5 minutes. Once they've cooled, then I'll crack them and I'm going to go ahead and just store them in a mason jar as well so they're ready for the week. Usually these eggs last about 5 days in the refrigerator. Now let's move on to the main event. This is going to be our breakfast for the entire week and it uses a can of chickpeas. I'm just going to start by straining out the aquafaba or the chickpea water, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to store that in a mason jar in the refrigerator because I will be using this later for something else, so don't throw that out. That is like liquid gold. It is amazing. I'll tell you more about that later. There's all my eggs there. I'm going to store those in a mason jar, put those in the refrigerator as well. So for this can of chickpeas, I'm just going to rinse it off really well, then add it to a blender. You can use the food processor if you like, or a blender, whatever you have. And I'm adding 2 eggs, but if you don't want to use the eggs in this recipe, you can use about 1/2 cup of that chickpea water instead. But of course, keep in mind that does lower the protein content of these pancakes if you don't use the eggs. Then we're adding that 1/2 cup of peanut butter and 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/3 cup of almond milk. But of course, you can use any milk that you like. So if you like coconut milk or any non-dairy milk, just use that. About 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I am adding 1/4 cup of cocoa powder, which I didn't pick up at the store. I already had it on hand, but it's about $2.62 or so at my local Walmart. Definitely use it for this recipe though. It's really going to help with the flavor. Now I'm adding maple syrup. I'm using 1/4 cup here, but I did experiment with 2 tablespoons in the prior recipe and that worked great too. Just depends on how much sweetness you like, and you can use honey instead of maple syrup or really any sweetener that you like. Just choose what you have on hand, what you love, and it will work beautifully for this. My kids devoured these chocolate pancakes, and I went ahead and added some chocolate chips too here that you can see I folded those in after I blended everything up in the blender. But the chocolate chips are completely optional. I know that the non-dairy chocolate chips can be a little bit on the pricey side. I did find some dairy-free chocolate for baking at Aldi the other day for $2.49, so that could be an option. You can just chop it up and throw it in, or if you have some dairy-free chocolate chips on hand, you can add that too. Now I'm just cooking these like I would for any regular pancakes that I make. I'm just using a non-stick skillet here, but you can use whatever you have on hand. But keep in mind, you may have to use oil or maybe some non-dairy butter if you have some issues with sticking, so you can do that. I'm just cooking those on each side for about 2 or 3 minutes until they're nice and dry on the edges. And once I've cooked all of the batter, I'm going to let those cool. I'll serve 1 serving for breakfast this morning and freeze the rest of the pancakes so they're easy to pop in the microwave or toaster oven later in the week. I'm going to serve them with 2 hard-boiled eggs and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. We only have enough eggs for 5 days to do this though, so you can kind of portion this out as needed and have those extra pancakes the last 2 days with just peanut butter. But the grand total is going to be about 26 grams of protein for this breakfast, and it is a little higher in calories at about 530 calories depending on if you have the almond milk, and about 34 grams of fat. Now I did head to the store just to see what the prices were on those chocolate chips that were dairy free, and at my local stores they run about $8 to $10, so that definitely is really pricey. So again, it's totally optional. but just make sure you're reading the labels and make sure that you find some that are dairy-free, and just keep in mind what your allergens are and just read the labels for that. But again, here is that baking chocolate I found at Aldi for $2.49, so that could work out. Just keep your eyes open when you go shopping and see if you can find some really good deals on the dairy-free options. This next recipe can work for either lunch or dinner. I'm going to be using the extra firm tofu and the chickpea spaghetti for this. I'll be making a stir fry with a peanut sauce. So first I'm going to go ahead and open up my container of tofu and drain out the liquid. I'm not going to worry about pressing the tofu too much. I'm just going to get a little bit of the moisture out. It's just going to take a little bit longer to cook the way that I like it if I don't press it, but I'm okay with that. So if you want it to take a little bit of a shorter time, you can press it for about 10 minutes or so. I'm just going to crumble it in the container there and set that aside. I'll heat my pan on medium high, add some avocado oil, but you can use any high smoking point oil, any like neutral oil. Olive oil would not work great for this because it will just start smoking. Once the oil is hot, I'm adding my tofu and I'm going to start crisping that up. Now, just the key is to not really touch the tofu until it has browned on the one side, and it'll start to naturally release on its own. Now, salt the water that you're boiling on the side there, and once the tofu is nice and crispy, then I'm going to add a little bit more oil and add my stir fry veggies straight from the freezer. That's the trick to keeping the stir fry veggies a nice texture and not soggy, is you don't want them to thaw out before you start cooking them. Now, while those veggies are cooking, I'm going to just throw my spaghetti in the pot there and give it a good stir and just continue to saute everything else while I make the sauce. In a jar or mixing bowl, I'm just going to combine half a cup of peanut butter, about 3 tablespoons of water, a 1/4 cup of soy sauce, although soy sauce is not gluten-free, so you could use coconut aminos or some other substitution here. Then 3 tablespoons of honey, but you can use the maple syrup instead. 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar, or any vinegar that you have on hand will work fine, white wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar. Then 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and give it a shake. I do recommend adding 2 tablespoons of sriracha or some sort of hot sauce at this point too, but if you have some picky eaters that don't like spice, you can also add that at the end. Now, I'm saving some pasta water just in case I need it, but I didn't end up needing it for this. I'm going to taste the pasta, make sure it's nice and cooked through, then I'll strain it out and add it to a mixing bowl, and then I'll just add my tofu mixture and my sauce and give it a mix. I wanted to have this warm the first night and then have it as a cold salad the next day straight from the fridge, but that's up to you. You can have it warm or cold, and you can just rinse off the noodles if you want to have it a cooler sort of noodle salad. That would work too. This recipe makes 4 portions, and they're about 28 grams of protein and 450 calories per portion, plus about 17 grams of fat. So plenty of filling ingredients here, and it's delicious. For this next recipe, I'm going to go ahead and thaw out my salmon. I'm just going to put that in the refrigerator and let that thaw for 24 hours. And in the meantime, I'm also prepping all of my veggies for the entire week. Doing this will save me hours and hours over the week. I could just grab everything that's already chopped and prepared, and really this only takes me about 20 or 30 minutes. I'm just going to peel my carrots. I've separated all my carrots into different portions so I know exactly how I want to chop them. And just save those peels, though. I'm going to be making a homemade veggie stock with all of the peels and the scraps from the veggies, so make sure you save those. You can put them in the freezer if you like, if we're not going to use them right away, and then I'll show you in a little bit what we're going to use that for. So some of the carrots I'm going to be chopping just completely whole in sort of rounds at an angle, and I'm just going to be using those for roasted carrots later. I'm also going to be making some smaller pieces for a different recipe, so I do have about 2 cups portioned out for a different recipe later in the week of these smaller carrot pieces. But again, you can chop them however you like after you see the recipes here. And then I'm also going to be chopping and slicing some carrots for snacks. So I'm making some carrot sticks, so I have something to snack on during the week as well. So it's not just being used in recipes. I'm eating some of them fresh. It just really helps with the variety of all of these veggies, using them all kinds of different ways. And once they're done, I can just grab them straight from the fridge out of this lovely little mason jar as usual. And I'm going to be chopping my celery as well, saving all the celery scraps. They're going to work beautifully in that stock. I'm slicing some of the celery into celery sticks for snacks. I'm going to put those in a mason jar and fill it with water, and then just top it with with a lid and put that in the refrigerator. I will be having these celery sticks for snacks, some of them with peanut butter and some of them without. It really makes it easy when I can just grab the snacks straight from the fridge. And for the rest of the celery, I'm just going to chop it up into small pieces as a dice for another recipe later in the week. Now, once everything's all done, I can just put everything in the refrigerator, all sort of organized, so I can quickly grab them for recipes later on. And I'm going to do the same thing for onions. What's great about onions too, and celery and carrots, is once you have them all chopped up, you could actually freeze them. So if something happened after you prepped all these veggies and you just couldn't make those recipes, you could just put them in a nice airtight container like a bag and put them straight in the freezer and just take them from the freezer when you need to use them later on. So that way you won't waste anything. That prep is all done. That was super fast, and I promise it'll be totally worth it. Next, I'm making the marinade for a honey soy salmon. Now, soy sauce is not gluten-free, so make sure that you substitute with coconut aminos or whatever you would like to substitute. Then I'm using some honey and some sesame oil. I do like to add some garlic powder and sometimes some red pepper flakes and a little bit of ginger to this and a little onion powder. Now, you can just eyeball all the spices. I do have it all listed exactly for you in the recipe in the blog post, but you can just season it to taste it and just make sure it's exactly right. Add more sweetness if needed, more sesame oil. Oops, one of those salmons tried to get away. Just put the salmon in a bag or a mixing bowl and just top it with that marinade. And we're just going to keep this in the refrigerator all day until we're ready to cook dinner later this evening. So I'm just kind of doing this in the morning so it's ready to go. Again, meal prep is all about just having things ready for yourself later in the day, so that way you're not stressing about dinner and everything is super easy. So now it's dinner time and I'm prepping my carrots. These are the sliced carrots. I'm just tossing them with some avocado oil and salt and pepper, but you can use any oil for this really. It doesn't make a huge difference, and add any seasonings that you like. Then just add it to a lined baking sheet and put that in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes. Halfway through, we're going to mix it up, and then we're also going to get our salmon ready so we can pop it in there and everything can kind of be ready at the same time. So I'm going to pull out my salmon from the refrigerator, grab a casserole dish or a baking sheet, and then just add the salmon there, skin side down, and then just pour all the sauce on top. And we're just going to put that in the oven with the carrots and just continue to cook the salmon for about 15 more minutes or until it's fully cooked through and a temperature reads about 145 degrees Fahrenheit internally. Once the salmon and carrots are cooked through, I take them out of the oven and let them rest for about 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm putting my broccoli in the microwave. I just pour it in a bowl, add 2 tablespoons of water, cover it, and cook it for about 4.5 minutes. Then I just plate everything and it's ready to go. This makes 4 portions and there are about 26 or 27 grams of protein per portion and about 321 calories and 17 grams of fat. Now, to really keep things interesting for the week, I wanted to try something new this week. So with the aquafaba or chickpea water from the refrigerator, I just took about 1/4 cup and added that to a blender, and I added some salt, some sugar, Dijon mustard, and some lemon juice. Now, this recipe I found online, so I was trying something new here, and you can give me some tips and tricks if you've tried this before, but essentially I'm trying to make sort of a vegan mayo. I'm just going to blend it until it's all combined, and then I'm going to start adding some avocado oil. I do think they recommended some maybe sunflower oil or something like that, and maybe that would have thickened the sauce a little bit more, but this sauce did turn out delicious, and I did end up eating it, so definitely recommend giving this a try. It just didn't come out nice and thick like a mayo normally would. However, I will say that I did prefer the flavor of this sauce over the mayo that I normally use. So that was really surprising to me, and it's really just a great fun way to use that chickpea water. And I think if I would have used my large blender piece with the pour spout in the top, I may have been able to get this more thick too. I think I may have just used maybe the wrong blender and maybe the wrong oil. But again, it came out delicious, and I'm super glad I tried it. And if you want to try it, definitely do, because I highly recommend it. Super delicious flavor for this one. So I'm going to put that in the refrigerator because I'm going to use it later in the evening to make a sauce to pair with my next dinner. All I'm going to do is add a little bit of sriracha, and I'm making sort of a sriracha mayo drizzle with this sauce. And let me tell you, it was super delicious, but you can add any seasoning or hot sauce you like to this. Set that aside. And I did want to compare this to a mayo sauce. So I made a lemon aioli with just some regular mayo. And of course, course, you can use whatever you have on hand and whatever you love, whatever is dairy-free or sounds delicious to you. I'm just making sort of a quick little sauce so I can compare the two different mayo sauces and just see which one I liked better, because for this next recipe I'm using one of those salmon fillets to keep things really interesting this week, and I'm making salmon patties. Of course, this one is completely optional. It's just a fun way to show you how you could turn some of those leftovers into something new and just keep your week a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to mash up that salmon fillet straight from the refrigerator, add about a tablespoon of finely diced onion, 2 tablespoons of cornmeal or other gluten-free option, or you can use panko. You can use crushed crackers or some dried bread, even anything that you want to use is fine. Then a teaspoon of Dijon, a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and about 2 tablespoons of aquafaba as well. So I'm not using egg in this, although you could use egg if you wanted to. That aquafaba just works really good as an egg substitute. It's a great binder. So I just added some there, add a little bit of salt and a little bit of parsley as well. But any seasonings that you like for this would work. This is my very first time making salmon patties, so I'm not sure what else you put in them. Please let me know in the comments if you normally make these and what you usually put in them, because I'm always looking for new ideas. Now that everything is all mixed together, I'm just going to start making the patties and shaping them. So just try to portion them into 4 portions or so, or as big or as small as you like, and just make sure they stick together nicely, and adjust the panko or the aquafaba as needed. And once those are all set up and ready to go, we're just going to heat some oil in a pan until the oil is nice and hot, and then start adding the patties. And then I'm just going to be cooking these on each side, maybe about 5 or 6 minutes for the first side until it's nice and toasty and golden on the one side. And then I'm just going to flip it and make sure it gets cooked all the way through on the other side and nice and golden. And oh my goodness, let me just tell you how delicious these are. And not only did I think they were delicious, but my daughter did too. So that was amazing, because this is another meal idea I can put in regular rotation. For mine here, I just added some of that vegan mayo on top and just devour these. I ate all of the rest of these myself, except for the half of one that my daughter ate after school, but I could not stop myself. These were so delicious. If you're considering trying any of the recipes from this video, please try salmon patties. They were just mind-blowingly good. And you could probably freeze these and recook them, but I really don't know that you're going to need to, because you're just going to devour them. And it's really just one portion, just one meal here. So it could be a lunch or a dinner idea, but it's definitely a fun way to use that leftover salmon. Just really keep your week super interesting. Now for those panko breadcrumbs, I do want to mention they're not gluten-free. So just be sure to read the labels and get gluten-free options for those breadcrumbs if you are looking to keep this a gluten-free meal. Next, I'm going to make a homemade vegetable stock using the scraps that we saved from earlier. I'm just pulling them out of my freezer. Now I'm going to go ahead and make this stock earlier in the day. You can actually make it the day ahead of time and keep it in your refrigerator, or you can even make it the day that you have the scraps ready and just put it in your freezer until you're ready to use the stock as well. I'm just adding a bunch of water with the scraps to a large stock pot. I'm just going to put that on a low simmer for about 2 hours, and after that's all done, I'm just going to strain it out, and that's it. It's homemade veggie stock, super simple, uses up all those scraps, and you end up with a super flavorful stock for the soup that we're going to be making this evening. So this next recipe is a split pea bean soup, and I'm using all of the green split peas. So first thing you want to do is look through the split peas, make sure there's no rocks or bad split peas or any foreign objects, sticks and things like that. And we're going to give that a good rinse too and set that aside. Now in a large stock pot, I'm going to heat some oil. Any oil will do for this. And then I'll add my carrots, onions, and celery that I already had prepped from the refrigerator. I'm just going to saute this for a few minutes until the veggies are nice and soft and tender. Then I'm going to start adding my seasonings. I'm using salt and pepper with a little paprika, cumin, turmeric, and some garlic powder, but you can add any seasonings that you love for this. This is actually my first time making split pea soup, and I actually have no idea what it is actually supposed to taste like, because I can't say I've ever actually eaten split pea soup. But I did add a little bit of red pepper flakes for a little bit of spice, and this entire spice blend just ended up tasting so, so good, but definitely let me know what you add for your split pea soup. Next, I added 1 can of drain and rinse northern beans, all of those split peas, and then that lovely veggie stock that we made earlier in the day. Now I'm just going to bring this to a boil, reduce the heat, and let that simmer until those split peas are cooked through. I actually did end up adding a couple of bay leaves too. Then let everything simmer, and when everything was nice and cooked through, that's when I removed the bay leaves and served it on up. Now, I did look into a few recipes before I decided to just put a few things together, and I saw that ham is pretty common in split pea soup, and I looked at ham to add to this meal plan, but upon researching the dairy-free options, apparently processed meats sometimes have dairy in them for some reason. So you could add ham if you wanted to, or if you had another dairy-free option or something that you'd like to put in here, some cooked chicken, that would work beautifully. I actually ended up adding some croutons from my pantry. These are $1.39 at my local Aldi right now, and they're the perfect topping for this soup, but it was perfect as is. And this ended up making 6 servings at about 300 calories and 21 grams of protein per serving. So super filling and so, so delicious. I'm about to heat my leftovers, and I wanted to blend a little bit of the split pea soup and see if I like that consistency too. The recipe I got the inspiration from mentioned that I could blend part of it, and I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do that or not. I love the texture of it just like this, but I wanted to blend it and kind of see how that turns out. Not the whole thing, just some of it. So let's try that. All right, I've got my little Ninja cup over here. So I'm just going to scoop some of the soup with the liquid in here. Let's just do a couple. I'm gonna do a little bit, and then I'm gonna mix it in and see how that goes. All right, let's just give that a quick blend. Now just be aware too, if you have just cooked the soup and you want to blend it, be careful because hot soup will splash everywhere. Make sure that you have it nicely covered with a towel, and don't have the lid really tight on your blender. So it doesn't work with all blenders if it's hot, but this is cold. This is from yesterday when I cooked it. So you see my dog back there. Okay, that definitely looks a lot like split pea soup now to me, like the traditional split pea soup. So let's give it a taste. I do think I like it with a little bit of this creaminess in there, so I definitely recommend giving this a try to blend some of it. And it's just the broth is really nice. It has a nice texture to it. And if you want to blend the entire soup, that's totally fine too, but it's definitely great with some crusty bread or some croutons, or just as is. The flavor is delicious. When choosing fruit to add to this meal plan, if you wanted to add some fruit into your week, I recommend looking at the weekly ad. This week at my Aldi, the grapes were 99 cents per pound, and these lovely Cara oranges, which are so delicious, were $3.49 for 3 pounds. So that's what I decided to pick up to add to my week. And I'll usually wash them right when I get home and put them in a mason jar as well, so they're ready for me to just grab and eat as needed. But just select the least expensive fruit at your store. A lot of times it will be bananas or apples, sometimes melon, but definitely utilize the weekly ad to complete your meal plan and just get the best bang for your buck. I hope you found some inspiration from some of these recipes today. And if you have some favorite dairy-free and higher protein meals that you love, please put them down in the comments, because I'm always looking for new ideas. And I'm sure everybody watching this video would love to read some new ideas too. Don't forget, I do have my meal planning guide available. I'll have all the links down below in the description for you. And that meal planning guide includes lots of other meal plans that are around the same price as this one and use lots of different ingredients. So go ahead and check that out. Plus, I have lots of other things here on my YouTube channel for you to check out: meal plans, recipes, you name it. And hopefully you'll enjoy those too. And YouTube thinks you want to watch another video. So go ahead and check one of those out, enjoy it, and have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.